Welcome back to our channel, Recaptivating. Today I'm going to give you a recap of the first episode from the series The Last of Us. It's the year 1968, and two epidemiologists are on a talk show. They're talking about the possibility of a pandemic. As they talk about the possibility of a viral epidemic, Dr. Newman is more concerned about a fungal infection, and even though the idea is far-fetched, Newman claims that fungi could potentially alter their minds, much in the same way they do when infecting ants. He explains that it devours the host from within, but prevents decomposition while doing so. Newman then explains that if the world were to become warmer, the fungi would evolve to affect humans, taking control of billions. He also claims that this would spread the infection to every last human being alive, and that there would be no cure or any possible way to make one. After that, we jump to 2002, where we come across Sarah Miller. Sarah wakes up and ensures that her father Joel has also woken up. She prepares his breakfast, and it just so happens to be his birthday. Joel's brother Tommy also joins them for breakfast. The brothers work in construction, and even though it's Joel's 36th birthday, he tells Sarah that he needs to work a double. However, he does promise her that he'll be done by 9 and that he's gonna come home bringing some cake. On the radio, there's some vague reports of disturbances in Jakarta. Before they all leave the house, Sarah rushes into her father's bedroom and takes his broken watch and a few dollars. Before she leaves the room, she looks over at her father's pocket knife. On the way out, they bump into their neighbors, whom Sarah promises to visit after school. As the Miller family drives away, we come to learn that Tommy is an Operation Desert Storm combat veteran and that they're living in Austin, Texas. After school, Sarah goes to repair her father's watch. While she's at the shop, the repairman's wife comes in and says that the store is closed for the day. The repairman then gives Sarah the watch back and she heads on out. She then goes to her neighbor's house. In the background, we can see Sarah's neighbor, who uses a wheelchair, twitching oddly as her mouth opens widely, as though she wants to scream. This is a terrifying scenario that Sarah does not see. As she leaves the house, she notices that her neighbor's dog, Mercy, is looking at the woman in the wheelchair as if something were wrong. As she walks back to her own house, several fighter jets fly overhead. This makes Sarah concerned about the police on the roads. Joel comes home an hour late and he has no cake. However, he does promise to come with one the following day, so Sarah gives him his birthday present, which just so happens to be the watch. Later in the night, Joel receives a call from Tommy asking him to bail him out of jail. Joel leaves after tucking Sarah into bed. 3 hours later, the sound of bombs going off and car alarms wake Sarah up. The house is empty, and she finds reporters on TV telling people to stay indoors. Her neighbor's dog taps on the window, so Sarah goes out to return the dog. However, Mercy doesn't want what's happening in that house, so she runs away. As Sarah gets into her neighbor's house, she hears gunshots. When she follows a long trail of blood, she finds her other neighbor being attacked by the woman in the wheelchair, who has long tendrils coming out of her mouth. The woman runs after Sarah, but Tommy and Joel appear just in time. The woman then attacks Joel, but Joel takes her out with a wrench. Joel, Sarah, and Tommy then get into the car to find safety. As they drive towards safety, Tommy mentions the rumors that this is a virus, and he also points out that there's no signal reception. He also says that they are most likely not affected because mainly it's people living in the city who are. On the road, they come across a family with a broken down car, and as Tommy slows down to help them, Joel tells him that it's better to keep on moving given the fact that they also have a child of their own to protect. The freeway is packed, so Tommy decides to drive through the grass. However, they find that the army has blocked the road, so Joel and Tommy decide to go to town and join the interstate on the other side. As they are driving, they see several airplanes flying extremely low. As they attempt to avoid the cars and people running all over the place downtown, a plane crashes into the street and the explosion knocks their car upside down. In this accident, Sarah hurts her ankle and can no longer run. Sarah and Joel are blocked off from Tommy by another car explosion, so Tommy tells them to meet him down by the river. Joel picks up Sarah and runs through the burning streets while avoiding the infected, which seem to be everywhere. Joel runs through a diner and away from an infected man, and before the man can grab them, the man is shot. A SWAT member holds a gun at Joel and Sarah, and Joel tries to explain to the man that Sarah has an injured ankle. The SWAT member tells he's commander of the situation, but it's clear that he is given the order to shoot them. Joel and Sarah fall down a cliff, and the man follows close behind. But before he can shoot Joel, the SWAT member is shot by Tommy. As Joel and Tommy recover, they realize that Sarah had been shot in the stomach, and as much as Joel tries to save her, he's too late, and she is already dead. 20 years later, we see a child shambling through a destroyed Boston as he makes his way to the quarantine zone. But before he gets through the gates, he passes out. When the kid is eventually tested, the machine turns red. One of the guards gives him an injection, which he tells the kid is medicine. After that, we see more of the Boston quarantine zone and dead bodies being burned on the streets by the truckload. One of the bodies is that of the child who passed out. Shortly after, Joel picks up this kid's body and places it in the flames. Joel mainly smuggles things in and out of the QZ. We can see him exchanging ration cards and pills with a Fedra soldier. After that, the two talk about getting a car. The soldier also talks about Fireflies, which is a resistance group that has been blowing things up all around the zone. Shortly after, we meet Tess, who's being held against her will by Robert, a guy who ripped her off. Tess bought a truck battery from Robert, but Robert sold it to somebody else. Before Robert can say that they're good, a bomb blows up near where Tess is being held, and she manages to escape to the streets. A Fedra officer handcuffs her as she tries to explain to the officer that she's not a Firefly. After this, we see Ellie, who was also being held against her will, being given a series of tests. However, she claims that her name is Veronica. Joel talks to a man with a massive radio setup, and the man says that he hasn't heard anything from Tommy in 3 weeks, even though it takes him a day to respond. Joel then asks the man to show him where the tower is on the map, and the man points to its placement in Wyoming. In his shabby apartment, he plots his route to Wyoming as he takes his dinner of booze and pills. We can see that he's still wearing the watch his daughter gave him, but it's broken. While he's in bed, Tess joins him, but he turns away from her while she holds him from behind. The following day, Tess tells Joel that Robert sold their battery to someone else, and they agree to hunt Robert down and get their stuff as they look for Tommy. Among the Fireflies, there is Marlene, the leader of the Boston faction. One of her followers, Kim, asked her why they were attacking Fedra. Marlene reveals that they want to take the tied-up girl west. As Joel is guarding Tess during a meeting, a man asks him if he's feeling lost. Tess finds where Robert is hiding, and she and Joel head out to pay him back. Back at Ellie's, Marlene comes to visit her and gives her back her backpack. Ellie immediately looks inside to find her switchblade. They then talk about where Ellie came from and how she ended up being in a Fedra orphanage. Joel and Tess make their way through the subway to get to Robert, and as they enter a marked door, they find the decomposed body of a man stuck to the wall from a severe infection. As they make their way up the ladder and to a door, they smell gunpowder and see blood coming from under the door. They find Robert's dead body, and next to it is their battery, which is clearly useless now. Joel and Tess hear Marlene and Kim at the end of the hall, and when Ellie tries to attack Joel, Joel has no problem knocking her down. It turns out that Robert was trying to sell the shitty battery to Marlene and the Fireflies, but it left Kim without an ear and Marlene shot to the side. Marlene claims to need the battery more than Joel, and Joel blames Marlene for turning Tommy against him. Marlene tells Joel and Tess about her plan to get Ellie out of the QZ, but since the two don't smuggle people, she has no protection. Marlene tells them that they will get everything they need if they get Ellie to the old state house where the fireflies are. Eventually, Tess and Joel agree to transport Ellie. Still, they will kill her if the fireflies don't get everything they need. Joel and Tess take Ellie to a hideout, and while they talk loudly outside about Bill and Frank, Ellie finds a code next to the radio, and inside is a list of Billboard chart songs. When Joel comes back inside, Ellie asks about Bill and Frank and the code. Joel takes a nap, but Ellie tells him that his watch is broken. When Joel wakes up, Ellie tells him that she's never been out of QZ. Joel asks Ellie whether she's some bigwig's daughter, to which she replies, something like that. Eventually, Tess returns and tells him it's time to head out. They manage to avoid Fedra as they move outside the QZ. They come up to the guard, to whom Joel sold pills, and he pulls a gun on them. When Ellie stabs the guard, Joel remembers what happened to his daughter and ruthlessly kills the guard. Ellie then claims that she was bitten 3 weeks ago, but nothing has happened to her yet. As they leave QZ, we start to see what Joel and Tess will be up against. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications to watch more movies like this one. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one, and stay safe.